I didn't realize I'm muted. Whoops, that didn't work out well. Anyways, so let me try that again. Welcome back to my weekly wrap up. I come live to you from Greensboro, North Carolina, but for the last time. This time because I will be returning to Bloomington, Illinois on Tuesday, where I will be back in my dorm. So the next live stream, whether that be on Friday or Sunday, will be from my dorm again. So school next semester, spring semester is upon us finally, beginning on Wednesday. So yeah, and so I gotta go back there. But that was it was fun here, and yeah, so it should be the next semester should be interesting. Also, will be uh, kind of busy, I would say, with all the schoolwork. And actually, let me just check really quick whether I'm live on LinkedIn, because it once again on another platform this time though it wanted me to reconnect LinkedIn, but I should be because it popped up on the at the front here. So okay, perfect. Good morning, Derek. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you once again for reposting the event to your network and expanding the potential audience here. Although you're usually the only one who shows up, so other than my dad, who is always there. But yeah, so we'll see. We'll see if anybody joins. But like I said, it's interesting because again, I always invite around 1,000 people to each of these events. But then for example, uh, earlier this year in well, no, actually no, I didn't realize it's 2026 now. Happy New Year, by the way. I didn't even say that. But yeah, last spring, it was interesting because whenever I would invite those 1,000 people, there would be like 70, even at most, I think it was like 80 attendees. Like people who would click attend. I don't expect them to actually come. They just clicked on attend, and it even got at its peak. It even got like 7 live viewers that I had, and I had like people in the chat and we were talking and stuff like that. So it used to be fun, but now live streaming on LinkedIn has gotten way worse, I would say. Again, just like with real, uh, just like with live streaming anywhere else, you need to have a huge audience beforehand, obviously. So people who go into live streaming usually already have like big audiences, and so that helps. That obviously helps, and it's unfortunate that it did kind of go into kind of went out the window. But used to enjoy these events way more because again, people would come, people would stop by, talk with me, even people who just LinkedIn offered the posts and live streams way more. So people even from I didn't know from outside of my network would just start talking and chat and stuff like that. So it would be again way more fun, way more engaging. It would go by quicker because I didn't have to just try to figure out. I didn't have to try to figure out the whole thing alone, basically, right? Because people are always gave me some ideas. They came in, hello, 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 welcome everybody at CWebDev, Carl Mergel. And yeah, so again, like I said, it just used to be way more fun in general. And now I usually get just like, I don't know, 30, around 30 views, so not 30, 30 attendees per event, despite sending the exact same um, despite sending the exact same amount of what's it called? Despite sending the exact same number of invitations. So yeah, and of course, yeah, 94th minute loser pool scores. Yeah, well, yeah, there's nothing you can do about that. It's probably a lucky goal. And the goals at the end of soccer football matches are always just um, bounce off one head onto another foot and into another head, and then boom, there's a goal. It's usually just not choreographed. It's very messy. Anyways, so I will be what I'll be talking about. I have finished recording my long form. For those who don't know, I am making a long form on AI addiction and how that will be influencing behavior um, in the future eventually, and kind of breaking down what tools there are, and you know, so they're really similar to social media algorithms. It's pretty much the exact same thing. They're both built to increase retention, and they just have different reasons for it. Like social media algorithms have they're built as they are to increase retention, stuff like that, to for ad revenue, to get as much get as much money for each person as possible. And still they curate your feed. You get a it never really steps outside of it never really steps outside of your comfort zone. That's why there's always the echo chambers and stuff like that, right? And yeah, it's only done because of
Oh yeah.
money. So yeah, and what else did I want? Uh, I wanted to, yeah, so I wanted to just make a video about that because it seemed like an important topic for the future. It's gonna be interesting to see where it goes, because AI addiction, if it's not addressed now, right, as tech expands, and it has expanded quite a bunch in the past, what was it, 4 years. And it has expanded and improved exponentially. So well, once it goes into like physical manifestations of whatever it is, right? For example, with character AI, you have like role play bots and stuff like that. It also has the platform in itself has a huge just a base of kids and teens on it. It's been proven, and it's kind of dangerous, right? Because these kids and teens are always kind of seeking validation, and the AI will always give them that validation, so they keep coming back. And once that kind of turns into maybe a physical manifestation, that's when it really gets dangerous. And at that point, you really kind of lose. So we need to establish some guidelines and guardrails before it gets there, because it's going to become really dangerous if it's left unchecked, basically. So that's what I'm talking about in the in the video. And yeah, it will be coming out in well, by the end of this week, next week. I mean, it's still haven't at the end of last week, but basically at the end of next week. So yeah, so by next Sunday, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And also, what I kind of tied back to, especially with that kind of physical manifestation of AI addiction, I tied back to Star Trek, because even what was it, 40? No, it was almost 40 years ago. Basically, they kind of they have the holodeck, which is basically a couple of rooms on the ship, on the Enterprise, where you can basically just go in there, and it's a completely computer generated space where you can recreate anything. Like stories. You can make your own stories from any which time. You can simulate another planet's environment. You can simulate environments for like experiments and simulations. You can recreate historical characters, story characters from like books and artworks and stuff like that. So it's a fascinating kind of environment, and you can literally just do anything. But again, it's all computer generated, and especially when it comes to generating people, it's when the computer doesn't really have enough information on how the person behaves, it usually tries to kind of fill in the blanks, right? It just kind of goes into let's see, I saw it was dark. Just want to check. I'm still you can still hear me. But yeah, so uh, it kind of tries to fill in the blanks, just like modern ChatGPT with its hallucination and stuff like that, right? When it doesn't know anything, when it doesn't know anything about the person, is going to try to just completely make it up, usually, right? And when it does that, it leads to a very distorted picture of of the person, of the actual person, right? So, usually like characters from like Shakespeare's novels or like Sherlock Holmes and stuff like that. So it's a popular thing in the next generation. Then those are usually well portrayed because obviously the works um explain how those characters behave. But when it comes to characters who are living, and that's what I'll mostly be talking about because in a series, for example, Chief Engineer Geordie LaForge and then Lieutenant Barclay, also from engineering, they both create um, like contemporary characters, basically, right? Contemporary uh, people who are actually still alive, right? So there's not much to know about their behavior except for maybe a general kind of description from like their bio or like their file or something like that, right? But other than that, it doesn't really know anything. So that's I'll be expanding into that and how they did, and basically in both cases it turns into um, romance, right? With Geordie LaForge, he recreates this doctor who helped in a moment of crisis to basically like so that the computer simulation can help him solve something with the ship's engines. Because and so he creates this doctor who designed the ship's engines, and in the simulation, she's just really lovely. She affirms him. She tells him how good he is and all this stuff. And again, sounds familiar to ChatGPT. Really, it always affirms you like every time. Oh yeah, this is a perfect idea. Same thing with her. She did that too. And at the end of it, after the crisis ends, they kiss. They actually share a kiss. So and she's like, she's a very charming lady in the simulation. Then there's like a episode in the next season because that was season 3. Then in season 4, she actually comes on board to kind of check out the modifications that were done to the engines, and she is nothing like the simulation. She is just you know avoid like she just doesn't want to talk with Geordie like almost at all. Even though he has this idea that since they shared a kiss, like they have something. It was not the real her, obviously. So but he can't seem to separate that. And it turns out like she's married, and then eventually she actually finds the holodeck simulation, and like the simulated version of her. She's like, oh, like whenever you're looking at these engine. Whenever you're looking at these engines, you're looking at me. Whenever you're touching them, you're touching me, and like this type of stuff. So she's like completely outraged by it. She says she feels violated, and then you know it's a whole thing. So I'll be expanding into that. I'll be showing the clip actually, and then Lieutenant Barclay. It's a similar thing, although he recreates literally members of the Enterprise crew, his superiors, and kind of ridicules them in it, and makes himself they're like how would I call this? They're kind of not really submissive, but they are subservient. Yeah, and so he's the king of that kind of simulation, and he built it because he was just really socially anxious, and whenever he didn't want to be in dealing with people basically, or whenever he got just overwhelmed, then it kind of just he just created that computer simulation so that he could just escape and have control in that area, have control in the holodeck. Because other than that, he would not. He would be really lost. He would not know what to do. But eventually, the same thing happens. Because he recreated versions of the ship's counselor, the second in command, his direct boss, who was actually Geordie LaForge, and then the ship's doctor, and basically and also the ship's captain, Picard, and they are, again, the the male characters are subservient, kind of funny looking and stuff like that, and the women they're really romantical, and especially like with Counselor Troy, who's portrayed as literally the goddess of empathy. Like she's like dressed loosely, and she says, "Oh yeah, like give all your feelings onto me" and stuff like that. So then they find Barclay, and he's actually getting comforted by really tenderly comforted by Dr. Crusher, the ship's doctor. So it's another thing. So it was not really meant to be a fantasy. It was just a means of control for him, because that was the only means of control he had on the ship. Otherwise, he was ridiculed. Like, they had a bad nickname going on for him, and you know he just didn't want to be in the real world, didn't want to deal with it, so he just escaped, and he just escaped into the holodeck simulation, where he was king, where everybody loved him and everybody respected him and stuff like that. So that's and eventually, it was kind of a warning, I guess, a very early precocious warning for what could happen if this is unchecked. And even in the episode, as the second in command Riker points out, it was actually against Starfleet regulations to simulate, I believe it was fellow crew members, not people who were alive in general, but just fellow crew members. So because it could just lead to this stuff, just bad stuff. Definitely, the simulation definitely kind of got into his brain, and he behaved way differently. He because for example, I'll just give you one more example. The ship's counselor, ship counselor's real boyfriend was Riker, and Barclay thought he had a thing with her in the holodeck simulation. So he kind of then in real life starts to go against Riker a little more, because he thinks they have this like fight over her, but she doesn't know that, and neither does Riker, and they're just wondering why he behaves in this way. So again, it could definitely, and again, I'll tie it all back to today's world, because it will have massive ramifications if it is left unchecked. So that's what we're trying to prevent, and that's the kind of conversation I'm trying to start. 40 years ago. Yeah, I mean, I got that. I got a similar comment on one of my on my shorts that I did actually a couple days ago. I actually showed right now, but no, yeah, I mean, it's a long time ago. Yeah, it surprised even me too. It was way before my time, but it already had some really interesting modern takes on a lot of stuff. Even if AI is conscious, if it's alive, with data and stuff like that. So again, it had a really good basis for what we're dealing with today. So yeah. So I'll show you the short, and then we continue. Set it up here. Hang on. Okay. Let's see. Let's share it. Here we go. I believe it will go now. All right. Can we see it? Yes, we can, but we can't see me. Let me just put myself on the bottom there. There I am. Perfect. Okay. So let's watch. Star Trek warned us about AI addiction. No joke, like 30 years ago. In The Next Generation, there's this guy Reginald Barclay who gets addicted to the holodeck, a simulated ideal world where nothing rejects him and he can be king. Everything responds perfectly, without judgment and without discomfort. And that's basically what AI companions and VR tech are becoming. He wasn't addicted to the tech, he was addicted to control. I will soon be releasing a full breakdown of this phenomenon, because in today's world where millions of people are using ChatGPT, character AI, and other models every day, it gets scary really fast. Until then, subscribe to this channel and let me know in the comments, what do you think of AI addiction? Yeah, so that's the breakdown that I'll be doing. That's the long form, that's what I'm talking about. And I'll also be showing some of these stats, because they're kind of shocking. 1 in 5 adults use AI tools for companionship. That's obviously like from a sample of 10,000 people, but it's still kind of scary, right? Because that's a fifth of, if you take it and then expand it onto the whole population of the United States, it's all adults. What is it, 21%? So 21% out of, what is it, like, how many adults are there? Let's say, I know it's way more than that, but let's say 200 million. That's a fifth of 200 million, which is what, 250,000 now. So that's, of course, my math. Just 200,000 divided by 5 is what, 400,000. So 400. So it's 40 million adults, Like that's obviously, statistics don't work like that, but again, it could be up to 40 million adults that are, and that are using AI for companionship, which is, again, it's scary. It's a fifth of all U.S. adults. Adults, by the way, yes, not even talking with teens, because with teens, it's regular users. I don't know how this is actually. Again, stats can be manipulated in any which way you want them, but I don't know what the question is. There's no. They didn't. They didn't actually publish the research question, which is a little weird. But if we were to assume that it was the same question for this, asked for this, then it's more than twice as much. So again, scary. Images are customizable digital characters. Yeah, here's a definition of AI companions. AI companions are customizable digital characters that engage in personal conversational interactions for meaningful dialogue, emotional support, or role play, e.g., character AI replica, general AI platforms such as ChatGPT, used as companions. And then, so that was actually a recent study, July 16th, 2025. And so, again, it's talking about character AI replica and ChatGPT. So that's just kind of a snapshot of where we are at and what the current trends are. And in my opinion, it's not gonna go down if we don't. If we don't, I'm not saying shut it all off or something like that. It's just we definitely need to have more just resources for people who are lonely, right? Because people get attached to it whenever they are. I guess I'll just stop. I don't think I want to show anything else. It's almost at the end, anyways. Let's see. Boom, boom, and then I'm back. Okay, so it just kind of shows a snapshot into what it is right now. It's not going to decrease. We need more resources with just mental health, and just talk with people, right? Because if you notice that somebody's lonely, talk with them, because otherwise they might slip into this cascade where they just start attaching unhealthily to AI, like character AI, ChatGPT. They will start thinking that it's conscious, alive, that it has emotions, that it cares about them. They will just start putting in their feelings with it, and that's again, it's almost too late every time, because once that happens, then everything ChatGPT says is just the gospel, basically, for those people. And but it starts as comfort, it starts as kind of escapism, but it turns into a very unhealthy relationship that can even end in tragedy. As we've seen, there's even like a whole I've seen a Wikipedia page that listed some victims of this stuff, where they just kind of got detached from family. That's just didn't want to talk with them. They just only talked with ChatGPT or whatever, was some therapy bot, something like that. And then then they just, for example, take their own lives and stuff like that. Oh yeah, that's a really good point here. We spend a lot of energy to create companions instead of being companions. Exactly. Yeah, and it's this whole thing. It's just the world has become way more impersonal. There's not much dialogue going on, right? It's all just become detached, and that's, again, it's going to lead to way more danger than we bargained for. So that's why we need to start talking again. That's why the video hopefully will reach far and wide, and will become a kind of like a how would I put this? A call to action, hopefully a wider one, and a more again, a fire starter, basically, right? Because we need to start the conversation about it. So not everything in the video will be based off of facts. It will just be more, and I'm using more, connecting it to pop culture, because again, it becomes more relevant, and especially for younger people. So that's why I'm doing that, to basically expand its reach, kind of. But the message is still the same. Star Trek is not going to be it's not going to be a video about Star Trek, like a nerdy thing, like a fandom or whatever. No, it's just going to be used as a kind of reference point, as a guiding light for the conversation. Because again, it did have some good points about modern issues, even like not at the time, not really. It seemed futuristic at the time. Now it's modern. Now it's current. So yeah, so we should just not let it ever get that far. Because once you stop talking, once it gets into an extreme level, even it can just turn into just a bad thing globally, right? Because once people stop talking, conflict resolution just dies. Nobody will be able to know how to talk with each other. Everybody will just think that relationships uh, are supposed to be perfect and that all friendships will last forever. Just be hyper fantasized, but there will be eventually disagreement and friction. Then, once there is disagreement, people will just not know how to deal with it. They'll just turn off temporarily until they can just kind of enter their imagined perfect beautiful world, and start talking with ChatGPT again, which will reassure them about everything and how everything's fine, that they did everything right, and will never push back on them. So that's gonna be interesting to see. But yeah, again, but hopefully it doesn't. Hopefully it never gets there. And thankfully, though, the video that I just showed you, actually the short, it had a pretty good amount of views and likes. It had a really good reaction, actually. Only 5 likes to 145 um, likes. No, 5 dislikes to 145 likes. So it's like one of the biggest margins of likes to dislikes I've ever seen on my channel, at least, right? So again, that's what makes me think. That's what makes me have hope that the video that I'll be releasing, the long form, will, hopefully again explode because of the reaction that the short had. So kind of had a short was kind of a pilot, and then now will be the long form, and then I'll make probably another short just about Geordie LaForge's case. This was about Lieutenant Barclay's case. So yeah, 28 minutes and counting. So we're almost done, and I don't know. I'll just probably I want to close this off. Not any new comments, but yeah, like I said, it's just AI companions. AI companions are not dangerous in and of themselves, and usually it's not even malevolence that dictates them. It's just the fact that they're built like that. They're built for feedback, for positive feedback only. If you give it wrong feedback, it's it doesn't want to talk with you anymore, which actually was a more funnier presentation that I did, and it was a while ago. It was one of my first presentations, actually, one of the summary presentations with the AI presentation, AI overview. Well, basically what it was is there was this AI that could translate into a lot of languages, and specifically one eventually stopped. The AI just stopped answering in one language specifically, and it was Croatian. They were wondering, they looked into it, and they found out that it stopped talking in Croatian completely. It just shut off because Croatians just didn't like, when they saw the writing or something like that, they just didn't like the wording, the lack of nuance, and they just didn't like it. So they gave it the dislike button every time. Negative feedback, negative feedback, and it just kept going until the AI said, "You know what? Since you're just giving me negative feedback and I'm not getting anything right, I'm just going to shut off. I'm not going to talk in Croatian at all." So that's similar to what it's going to do to you. I don't think it will ever stop talking to you, even if you give it 100 negative feedbacks. It will just be, it's always trying to get that like, and so it'll do anything it can. Its main goal is to get that like, get the positive feedback, and increase retention, so that OpenAI has something to show to its competitors and to the market, like, hey, because they have a massive rivalry with Gemini now, and so 5.2 GPT 5.2 is just a direct response to Google's expansion, right? So they have that. So they will need to show that, oh yeah, look, the users on our platform are way more engaged with our bot, and then people are with Google Gemini, right? So that's the only thing. That's the only goal. They just need to show it for the market, and the AI is doing it for the likes. So that's its main goal. So it'll use any means necessary to get that like. And I'll end it off on that. So yeah, like I said, the video will be out, the long form, by next Sunday, and yeah, so go watch it. I'll definitely post it everywhere I can, on LinkedIn, on YouTube, anywhere, so it can get into the hands of as many people as it can. And yeah, so keep an eye out on that. But thank you very much for watching. For those who stayed all the way until the end, thank you, Derek, for contributing. Thank you, Karel Mergel, for contributing as well, and NCU UW as well. So thank you for helping the live show move along a little bit. And yeah, so I just wanted to say that. And like I said, I'll be live next Sunday again from Bloomington, Illinois at, well, 11 a.m. local time that time, but 12 p.m. Eastern, same time. But yeah, so until then, have a great rest of your day. Have a blessed Sunday. And I will see you from Bloomington, Illinois next Sunday at 12 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, so have a good day.